Hi, friends. Thanks for joining us for another episode of College Town Talk. I'm Shan Stout.
And I'm Jonathan Frank.
Jonathan, do you think you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur?
Well, Shan, I don't want to brag, but I do watch a lot of Shark Tank, and I think my idea of a reusable paper towel could really take off.
You know, I think that's just called a towel.
Well, it may need some fine-tuning. I've also been workshopping an idea for drive-through yoga.
Okay. Well, maybe we can lean on our next guest today to give you some pointers, because today we're talking with Tennessee Tech alumni and local businesswoman Rachel Smalling. Now, get this. Rachel bought, flipped, and now owns and manages not one, but 2 hotels on Dale Hollow Lake. She is the owner of 1854 Cocktail Bar and Lounge, and that's the popular local speakeasy right behind Poets Coffee. And move over, HGTV, because she and her partner, Alex, also flip houses, turning fixer-uppers into beautiful move-in ready homes. So Rachel is a board member on the Byrdstown-Pickett County Chamber of Commerce. She's the former longtime executive director of the Bryan Symphony Orchestra. And we're still going. She is a classically trained cellist. Rachel also makes up 1/4 of the Orfeo String Quartet? Yes, a group of professional musicians that play at weddings and events across the Upper Cumberland. So many things. Rachel, I adore you. Welcome to College Town Talk.
Well, thank you, Shan. I'm so happy to be here.
Now, your career, your life is multifaceted. It's hard to know where to begin, but let's start at the beginning, because before you became a successful business leader, you were first a musician. So where did your musical passions come from, and when did you first pick up a cello?
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel every morning is, where do I begin today? That's my job every day, is to figure out who needs what and what needs to be done. But talking about my musical background, I actually started piano when I was about 4. My mom jokes that it was either going to be like, prison or piano lessons for me. And I do think that I was probably suspended every year in school until I started cello lessons. So for me, it was more of like, I was bored, right?
It was an outlet. Focus.
Yeah, it was an outlet for me. It was an outlet for, creativity, for that focus and a challenge, right? So yeah, I started cello actually in my public school program. We had a great orchestra program in our public schools in Knoxville. So that's where I started in the 4th grade, and just kind of loved it, took off with it, and decided that my route in college, that's where my focus of study was going to be.
Rachel, I just want to add to Shan's comments. I'm so glad that you're here. You know that I'm one of your biggest fans, and you led me right into my question, because you were talking about your route to college. So let's talk about that and your experience at Tennessee Tech. We just interviewed Colin Hill earlier today for another episode, and he was talking about the way that faculty in the School of Music really develop close kind of mentoring relationships with students. And I know that you had a mentor that was really influential at Tech. Professor Dan Alcott, of course, the longtime professor of music at Tech, the director of orchestras and the conductor of the Bryan Symphony Orchestra. And I remember right after I started working at Tech, I was still pretty new. I hadn't really gotten my sea legs yet, and I had a chance to interview both of you because that summer you were coming back to help lead the Summer Music Institute, and it was just really neat to see the mutual respect that you all had, and to kind of see having been his student, and then in that role being really a colleague. And so what did you learn from studying with him, and what made him an effective professor?
Yeah, so Dan is definitely probably the number one reason that I ended up at Tennessee Tech. I actually met him at that Summer Music Institute that you were talking about. That went away, unfortunately, kind of briefly after I graduated. And then Dan and I, as you mentioned, hatched a plan to bring that back, because I thought that was super important for the recruitment of the music department. So as far as, Dan being my professor at Tech, yeah, I learned so much. And I think every year I'm still figuring out, all of the minutia and the things that I learned from him. Obviously, in a cello and a technical aspect and all of that, but also just in life in general. I think in a weird way, people say, you're running these businesses. How did you end up doing that from, a studying music. And really, it's not that different in your skill set. Music is constantly problem solving the minutia. It is figuring out new ways to do things. And it is really kind of putting that grit and grind into multiple hours in a practice room and figuring out every tiny problem. And that is owning small businesses as well. So those skills kind of transfer over. As far as, Dan's mentorship to me, he set up so many opportunities for me that I don't think I would have had at a larger school or in a larger city. I had a lot of unique opportunities to explore arts administration, which I fell in love with. I did not want to go up against cellists and be practicing 8 hours a day. And I love music, but I wasn't that in love with cello in my music. What I was in love with was the operation side and making things happen and making shows happen. And the behind the scenes is really what I love. So he made sure that I had opportunity to explore that. He accepted that I wasn't going to be, a star cellist with the New York Phil, and he was okay with that. And he nurtured my skill set and set up many opportunities. I got to work at the Swanee Summer Music Festival for several summers, became the director of operations down there for a couple of seasons. So yeah, just fantastic opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I didn't end up at Tennessee Tech.
Well, Rachel, I love the fact that you've made this poetic comparison between the discipline of music and small business. And that is very, very true. I mean, you're making a lot of sense here. And, you're talking about how you were managing these, festivals and events and things those are very detail oriented. So we want to talk about some of your businesses, and there are a lot of them, but let's talk specifically about your work renovating and running these 2 hotels. So how did that project first come about? And when you were playing the cello at Tennessee Tech, did you think, hey, I'm going to have a side hustle as an innkeeper?
Absolutely not. It was definitely an organic process. I do love hospitality. I always have. I was always the household, hosting the friends and the family. In college, I made a really big goal for myself to buy a house and a property, and I was able to achieve that the year that I graduated.
Wow.
And I intentionally sought out property that had, rental potential. And I actually opened, I think, the second Airbnb in Cookeville back in 2012, I believe.
And now
I opened
I think
my Airbnb.
we have 287.
Yep, definitely has grown in that market for sure. But yeah, I started way back then and I loved it. Obviously, one, apartment out of your house is much easier process to run than 2 whole motels. But the love of it kind of started there. In terms of procuring the motels, that was an accident. A
happy accident or a daunting accident?
Some days we think, what are we doing? My partner, Alex, and I used to own a boat up on Dale Hollow Lake. And that was kind of our fun, recreational, free time. Guess what? When you own 3 businesses, you don't have time for a boat anymore. So the boat got sold. But yeah, we drove by this it's called the Obie River Inn then. That's our smaller property, now the Lakeside Inn. And we would drive by it on the way home, and it just looked so sad, and it needed somebody to rescue it. And it was during the height of COVID, and we didn't really have much going on. It was kind of a slower period in our jobs. So we kept joking about it. We were like, we should buy it. We're just talking about it. We should buy it. The owners had actually taken it off the market. It was for sale, and we found them and reached out and made an offer. And the next thing we know, we are closing on a motel.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was September of 2020. And then we opened our doors in April of 2021 with renovated rooms. And we gutted the place. And it was definitely a labor of love. Many nights and weekends, snow, rain, shine, lots of family help, lots of friend help. It was definitely, looking back, a really great time period. It was hard at the time, but looking back, I'm really proud of our progress.
I love that story. There was, we were jokingly open about watching Shark Tank, but there was a show that I got really into on Netflix called Motel Makeover.
Yes.
You saw this?
I love that show.
They had one season, and it's like these 2 best friends that renovate this motel in Canada. And so now I'm thinking that they should have called up Rachel.
Absolutely.
And she could have been season 2.
I think that if I'm not mistaken, that might have been the June Motel, and the 2 women that run that, like, I follow them on Instagram, and they are so amazing. Like, just what they do in their creative niche of, like, those vintage motels are having a moment, right? They are, and they just kind of took that and totally transformed it.
Well, hey, what you do is pretty amazing too. And I get to ask the best question of this interview because you know that I'm a huge fan of 1854 and come there quite often. Even got a Christmas card from the staff, Shan.
How nice.
And but really am just so appreciative of what that place brings to the food and beverage scene in Cookeville. It's a very elevated. There's this really kind of this ambiance that makes you feel like you're in a major city or in someplace completely different. And, as a university podcast, we haven't spotlighted too many cocktail bars on this show, Shan, but 1854 is really something special. And we should also tell listeners that you all have a great lineup of mocktails, non-alcoholic wines, small plates, and desserts. So there really is something for everybody. Where did the vision for 1854 come from? And now that you all have been in business for about 2.5 years, what has that ride been like for you?
I always tell anybody who wants to open a small business, it's going to be 5 steps forward some weeks, and it's going to be 4 steps back the next. And as long as you still have that 1 step forward gained, you're moving forward. That's the reality of small business. In terms of the idea for 1854, I don't want to say it was also an accident, but it is just kind of one of those things where my partner and I, Alex Connor, are both like yes people. We have an idea, we have a niche, and we think like, oh my gosh, this is something that our community really, needs. It's something we don't have right now, kind of an upscale lounge space. And as Jonathan mentioned, one of my passions from the beginning hasn't really been opening a bar. I love the creativity and the art of cocktails. But it was really to kind of open a place that was inclusive for everyone, which is why we're really passionate about the mocktails and all of those options as well. But yeah, it was really just kind of a vision of like 10 years ago, would this have worked in Cookeville? Probably not. But I think that now we're ready, and I think that, Cookeville deserves a nice little lounge spot to come and relax. And I wanted it to feel like when you walked in, you could be in any city in the world. Mm-hmm. If you haven't been in, it's a totally interior space, so there's no windows to the outside. So really, you just kind of get to leave everything at the door and come in and enjoy. And I had never even worked in a bar or restaurant before I opened this space. So surrounding myself with people that were more knowledgeable and more passionate, maybe on the cocktail or artistic side, whereas I was passionate on the business operations side, has really kind of been, I think, our secret to our success so far.
Well, and I want to speak to the genius behind your inclusivity model, because, I remember before you opened, 1854, you kept a lot of mystery behind it. Like, you made the people really have to dig, and you would showcase a tiny little snippet of a tiny little corner. You were the expert magician of teasers. You were throwing out these tiny teasers of this beautiful, potentially magical space, and everybody was just so curious. And so that was marketing genius, first off. Second off, now, I do not drink. I never have. And in the world of mocktails, when you're a person that doesn't drink and you go out with friends and then they have all these beautiful drinks and you're stuck with the dumb little drink in the sad little glass, because they won't even make a pretty mocktail. It has to be the plain one in the plain glass so they can tell the difference between alcohol and the mocktail. So you're sitting there and you still just look you're just kind of the nerd in the room because your sad little glass just is not nearly as cute as everybody else. And so it makes you feel disincluded, right? And that's not a great thing to feel in a social environment with friends. And I love the 1854. You can go in there, and not only are your mocktails delicious, so let's just clarify, they are not dull, they are not drab, but I have friends that, they always participate in Dry January, and they felt like they were going to have to give up something throughout an entire month of, I can't order my favorite drink. So then they started saying, now, Shan, what is it you order at 1854? Because they remembered they can go in and order a cute little mocktail and not really feel the hard sting of giving up something that they looked forward to. And so it was really nice. Like, you really thought through that piece so that everyone feels included. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone's drink is delicious, regardless of what it is. Your desserts are extraordinary. But let's talk about the space itself. The space itself is so beautiful. You said it was like you could walk in any city in the world. You'd feel like you were there. But I've just not seen many places in many cities in the world that look like 1854. I feel like it's more like you walked into a book. It's something that you invented out of your mind and you made it a reality for us. It is so gorgeous, and it is photo Instagram worthy, and people really have made a good use of that. So we're going to take a left turn. I bragged on 1854, but you're very busy. Let's talk about your work with the Orfeo String Quartet. Now, I had the chance to hear you perform last year at the Literary Gala for Plenty Bookshop. It was stunning. And of course, the whole Bridgerton themed music, that was complicated, and you guys nailed it. So let's talk about that journey.
Yeah. That timing was actually weirdly perfect because my quartet, they have been together. The Orfeo String Quartet has been together since 2009, I believe. I joined in 2012. So we've been playing together for that long. Sarah, our violist, I believe, started with us about 9 years ago. So we've been playing together as a cohesive group for almost a decade. We do weddings and events, just, a shameless plug there. You can reach out to our website. It's orfeostringquartet.com if you're interested. But the Bridgerton theme and the Plenty Gala was such an interesting time for us because we had just started a concert series that we're calling, I can't call it the Candlelight concert series for, branding issues, but we're calling it the Stringlight Sessions.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's better. Even better.
Thank you. Where we are basically doing mashups of concert styles. So what we are trying to do is bring little pieces of classical music to a public that might not understand what those classical pieces are. They might not go to a classical music concert, and that's totally okay. That's not for everybody. But we're bringing those little pieces and mixing them in with the new age music. So for the Bridgerton, we had actually already planned an entire Bridgerton we are calling it, I think, the Renaissance mashup.
So you were ready already.
Yeah, we were ready. We actually did a string light session at 1854. It's a ticketed event where we turn off all the lights, and it's only lit by candles. And the quartet played those really fun, kind of classical, merging into, what Bridgerton is really good at, merging into more pops pieces. So, and then we do about an hour of music, and you can order your drinks or your mocktails or your food before. And yeah, we're doing a 4-part series. We did that. We did a Christmas jazz session in December. And then coming up in May, we are going to do a folk rock session. So we're going to be blending some folk music into some classic rock hits. So that one's going to be fun as well.
Well, Rachel, I was looking at the clock here, hoping I'd have a chance to ask one extra question, and I think I will. So I'm going to try to sneak this one in here because in addition to all of your work with your businesses and with music in the community, there's another piece of your involvement we want to talk about, and that is your work as president of the Cookeville Downtown Development Group. And, we've had Farron Kefauver on the show. We've had Amy New. We like to talk to, economic and community development leaders here in Cookeville and Putnam County. We've got a beautiful, vibrant downtown, and it doesn't happen by accident. And so I know that you and some of your fellow business owners are really working to enhance that and kind of lift each other up and support each other. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Downtown Development Group board was formed by Jay, Seven Senses, and Savor. And Anna over at Soulcraft has been a huge part of that, as well as several other business owners downtown. One of our big goals in that group is to kind of be a united force for business owners. We all know about the West Side and the wonderful businesses there and how alive it seems on an afternoon or a Friday, Saturday. I love that. But one of our big goals is to kind of bring that connectivity to the square square, the businesses on the square, and then also that Spring Street area down
Yes.
where Vertical Coffee and Gene's Pizza and now Dream Country Brewing, where those places are. So basically being a connective force. So making sure that tourists and people that are in Cookeville for the weekend that don't live here have those that information of that connectivity, and also creating ways, with the city or the chamber or cityscape where we can make those connectivity options more attractive, whether that be pedestrian routes or information about businesses other than, West Side, because that's kind of where everyone ends up, and we love that. But we want to just kind of make sure everyone feels connected and supported in that downtown area. So.
Well, I love that because the West Side is great, but we have the downtown is more than that, and it's kind of like just fanning out that success and extending the perimeter so that more businesses can benefit, and we can just make that even a bigger radius. We end every interview on this show with the same question, and that is, what is one way that Tennessee Tech has impacted your life?
Where to even start with that? I think if I had to have one word, it would be opportunity. I think that it provided so much opportunity and live ground training and set me up for success in so many ways that other programs might not even look at undergraduate students in that way or give them those opportunities. So I think that Tennessee Tech is great at championing those undergrad students and also fostering that connection between faculty and students and branching them out into the community and providing those connections.
Rachel, I appreciate all you do for Cookeville and your friendship and for being our guest today on College Town Talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, if you're enjoying our show and hearing from local business leaders like Rachel Smalling, would you do us a really special favor and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get this podcast? It all helps to spread the word about the great things happening right here in Cookeville.
We'll meet you back here again next week for more conversations with the people who make Cookeville Tennessee's college town. College Town Talk is presented by Tennessee Tech University in partnership with the Cookeville-Putnam County Visitors Bureau. Your hosts are Jonathan Frank and Shan Stout, and original music is performed by Andrew Buckner. Visit us online at tntech.edu/collegetowntalk.